Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiramanachari Jaya Radha Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tiramanachari Jamuna Tiramanachari Jaya Nandana Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyavishakarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sati Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Practicing the voice, again we are reading from the Srimad Bhāgavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 29, text 9. Please repeat after me. Vishaya Visandaya Yasha Ashvaya Evava Achada Farchayet Yoma Pritarbhava Sarajasaha Vishaya Visandaya Yasha Ashvaya Evava Achada Farchayet Yoma Pritarbhava Sarajasaha Vishaya Visandaya Yasha Ashvara Evava Achada Farchayet Yoma Pritarbhava Sarajasaha.
Visayana Visadyaya Yasha Aishvaryam Evava Achatva Achareyo Mam Rita Bhava Sarajasaha
Translation word by word. Vishaya, sense objects. Avisandaya, aiming at. Yashaha, fame. Aishvarya, opulence. Eva, indeed. Va, or. Archa, worship of the deity and so on. Archayet, may worship. Yaha, he who. Mam, me. Pritarbhava, a separatist. Saha, he. Rajasaha, in the mode of passion. Possession, purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The worship of deities in the temple by separatists with the motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. The word separatist must be understood carefully. The Sanskrit words in this connection are vinadrik, which is from the previous verse, and prithag bhavaha. A separatist is one who sees his interest as separate from that of the Supreme Lord. Mixed devotees or devotees in the mode of passion and ignorance think that the interest of the Supreme Lord is supplying the orders of the devotee. The interest of such devotees is to draw from the Lord as much as possible for their sense gratification. This is the separatist mentality. Actually, pure devotion is explained in the previous chapter. The mind of the Supreme Lord and the mind of the devotee should be dovetailed. A devotee should not wish anything but to execute the desire of the Supreme. That is oneness. When the devotee has an interest or will, is that of a separatist. When the so-called devotee desires material enjoyment without reference to the interest of the Supreme Lord, or he wants to become famous or opulent by utilizing the mercy or grace of the Supreme Lord, he is in the mode of passion. Mayavadis, however, interpret this word separatist in a different way. They say that while worshipping the Lord, one should think himself one with the Supreme Lord. This is another adulterated form of devotion within the modes of material nature. The conception that the living entity is one with the Supreme is in the mode of ignorance. Who knew that? Oneness is actually based on the oneness of interest. Pure devotee has no interest but to act on behalf of the Supreme Lord. When one has even a tinge of personal interest, his devotion is mixed with the three modes of material nature. Once again, the translation. The worship of deities in the temple by separatists with a motive for material enjoyment, fame, and opulence is devotion in the mode of passion. Hare Krishna. Before I start speaking, please bless me, all the assembled devotees, especially the senior-most ones, so that I can say something pleasing to the lotus feet of Radha Govinda and the beautiful Bhāgavatam. We come to this movement and we start practicing Krishna consciousness. And in the beginning, there is a well-known phenomenon, an official phenomenon that happens, that the devotee receives a lot of mercy because he's innocent like a child. He doesn't know much. Even though he commits offenses, maybe, they're not taken into account by Krishna because he's yet to be introduced to the whole process. So Krishna is very merciful. He gives in the beginning. He gives us some taste. He gives a boost. Just like whenever the child is very small, starts learning to walk. And what the parents do, they start helping him. They're holding him a little bit. Little, step by step, help is there. But then at one point, the parents, they start leaving the child, and the child has to learn to walk on its own. So in the same manner, the nice flowery moments of the initial intoxication with mercy fade away. And then Krishna makes it really clear to us that now you have to learn to walk on your own. Enough support from me, now you have to walk the talk. You have to You have to become serious. It's a very serious practice, spiritual life. It's no joke. It is explained how spiritual life is like a razor blade with which you can shave your beard nicely. But if you press a little bit too much, you can hurt yourself, you can fall down, and create a great disturbance in society. So, not to be taken cheap. So, in this way we start walking our path and soon realize that actually there is a very high chance of stumbling and falling, because that's okay. Because we're inexperienced. And one day, after a very nice Mangalarati, after a chanting of 16 rounds, or after the numerous Hare Krishna festival, Ratha Yatra that happened, you're feeling all blissful. But then something comes in your mind, some creepy desire. It is explained that the consciousness, the subconscious mind of the living entity is like a swamp, still. And then at one point, if you observe what happens in the swamp, sometimes some bubbles come up. Sometimes they come up. So in this way, even though we practice, we do some nice kirtans, we engage in preaching and devotional service, still from the swamp, from time to time, these bubbles come up. Some desires which are lying there in the subconscious mind. Desires that just pop up in our mind and they disturb everything. It's like, what do I do with this now? Now I wanna do something else. Why? How do I deal with this? So it's a very embarrassing condition. We have put ourselves in this material existence. And we, again and again, we are faced with this same problem. These material desires that come up. So, how to deal with this? After all, it's not random. We have cultivated all these desires since billions and who knows trillions of lifetimes. The scriptures say, time immemorial, for so many years that you can't really count them. Since so many lifetimes. And this is why we are unable to surrender to Krishna, because of all this contamination which are lying deep inside of us. They're coming up. Because we are not completely convinced that Krishna is the one who actually knows our heart completely. He is the one who is inside of our heart, just like Prabhu was explaining yesterday. The two birds in the tree. One bird is restless, always looking for the fruits of the tree. The other bird is just observing, just staying in the background and facilitating the desires of the other bird. And in this way, the birds are always together, but the trees change. So many trees, so many bodies. So we are not convinced that Krishna knows our heart, and we are still not convinced that Suhridam Sada Dehinam, that Krishna, He is the well-wisher of all the living entities, all that there is. And we are holding back. We don't have enough faith. So we're keeping a little bit for ourselves still. We think that, okay, I'll do this, this devotional service, this is the right thing to do. Yes, Krishna, what we lack. He preserves what we have. Yeah. Just in case. You never know. This is our greatest fault, actually. We're holding back. Krishna, he doesn't see what we're giving to him. You can be a millionaire, or you can become a renunciant, you can give everything. But still you will look what you're holding back. There's something small there, but you won't consider all the millions that you gave. You won't consider that you gave up your family to join the Brahmachari ashram, staunch Brahmachari, distributing books. But did you give everything? Did you surrender your desire to enjoy the opposite gender? Did you surrender your passion for traveling, for so many things? Maya, she can create unlimited distractions. Just like spiritual happiness is unlimitedly blissful, but then Maya can give us unlimited arguments to do something else. So this is called business dealings with Krishna, transactional religion. It's explained in the Bhāgavatam, Srimad Prabhupada. Or tick the box religion. Mangalarti, done. 60 rounds, done. Prashadam, done. 6 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours, whatever, done. And then, okay, enjoy it. Now is my time. Let me get back to the real work, Browse YouTube a little bit, Facebook, whatnot. Yeah, this is what we do. This is how we're used to live. It's a very old habit, very old habit, so it takes time. Niyamagraha, doing the things just for the sake of doing them. Spiritual life can become mechanical. One can become that in Maya, even if he's living in a spiritual place, even if he's living in the ashram. The whole process can become just artificial. And one can start cultivating some other desires. Or the pigeon religion, Prabhupada explains. Have you ever heard about the pigeon religion? Pigeon religion, because when you go to the park, for example, sometimes you have the old ladies, they're feeding the pigeons, they're throwing a little bit of old bread, and the pigeons, they immediately come together, they get all the bread, and then you go nearby, you want to interact with them maybe a little bit more, and then they run away. So in this way, we come to God to beg for our daily bread. We come to Krishna for some benefit, but then when Krishna reciprocates, and he also wants to have a relationship with him, and then we go away. Because we want to do something else. Because we think that something else is better than pure devotional service. But this impurity has to be dissolved in the fire of bhakti. Just like we know how after the explanation of Kapildev of devotional service, then the next canto comes, and we have 3 very famous pastimes, which are actually exemplifying exactly what is explained in this chapter. Bhāgavatam is a very systematic, very beautiful exponent of all of these particularities that we're facing in our life. If we just read it, study it deeply, we'll find ourselves there. We'll understand everything. It's very clear. So, in the fourth canto, does anybody know the next three pastimes, famous pastimes, which are exemplified? Devotion in the modes of nature. Fourth canto, first pastime. Dasha. Dasha who offended Shiva. And that's characterized by devotional service in the mode of ignorance, because he was envious and angry at Shiva. Afterwards, we have Dhruvaji, who was actually exactly like the verse explaining. He was willing to beg from Krishna something for himself. He wanted a kingdom greater than his father and also his grandfather. And he engaged in severe penances, austerities, and amazing, wonderful. Even the demigods became afraid because his austerities were causing disturbance in the universe. Such was the potency. And then when Krishna came to him, because he was satisfied, he became completely self-realized. And he understood the great mistake that he had committed. And therefore the famous verse, Krishna, I have asked you for broken pieces of glass. Instead, you have given me precious jewels. And that is devotional service in the Lord's Passion. Still is not recommended for us. It is explained how Dhruva Maharaj was able to purify his heart even though he had that materialistic desire. But he was able to do it because he had a very, very strong determination. Something that is practically non-existent in our current situation. Kali chance. And then we have Prithu Maharaj, who is the perfect example of pious leader and devotional service in the mode of goodness. Won't go too much in detail in those ones, but another important thing from the first canto of Srimad Bhāgavatam, where the second verse explains how Srimad Bhāgavate Mahamunikrite Kim Vaparayishvara Sadhyahi Kaitama Dharma Dharma Prajita Kaitama Traparama Nima Nirmatsaranam Satam. That this Bhagavatam is for those who are Nirmatsarya, for those who have abandoned all of their envy and is rejecting all of the cheating religion, all of the pigeon religions, all the tick box religions. God give us our daily bread. So it is something very unique because we're transitioning from this regular religion, which is very commonly known by the world. Everybody's engaging. And now we are coming to Shuddha Bhakti, something which is very foreign, very unique. Nevertheless, in this way, we have been given this opportunity to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. We have been given the opportunity to associate with exalted Vaishnavas, to live in a sacred place, to taste sacred food, and to preach Krishna consciousness every day. Unlimited opportunities for preaching in New York City. Not only that, but the capital of the world, the most important city where Srila Prabhupada came. Not only that, but in the original temple, the original deities which Srila Prabhupada worshipped, and by direct testimony of Panchadana Prabhu, Prabhupada's favorite project. Such a great opportunity to serve and to become purified from all these last contaminations. An opportunity to transform our life into a legacy by tapping into the legacy of the Sankirtan movement of Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And all this was brought to us by the whole Guru Parampara and Srila Prabhupada himself, who came to the Lower East Side. So, this is a great time to be alive, a great opportunity to engage in pure devotional service. We have to realize, we have to constantly be reminded of this. We have to understand the rarity of our situation, to take human birth, and to be able to have so many blessings at this particular time and period. So we have to be diligent in our practice. We shouldn't be negligent in our sadhana bhakti, in our services. We have to pay attention to all the details. Every detail is important. Preserving the facility that we have. I see people sometimes they go around, running around with prashadam, spinning a little bit here, a little bit there, Come back and clean. We're doing these things. Cleanliness next to godliness, so important. Caring about the other devotees' needs. Staying there, listening to them, listening to their hearts. The people who are coming from outside, you have to understand that these people who are coming inside the temple, they are sent by Krishna, they're not random souls. So we have to be always ready to be there, to sacrifice our time completely for them. This is our greatest benefit. We will help them, we will help ourselves, we will help New York, and we will help the city. This is what the Sankirtan movement means, to become completely selfless and to engage in all these preaching programs that we're having here. Such a great opportunity. Prabhu saw yesterday, so many people came, a bunch of newcomers. Every time we have newcomers, that's such a great asset. In the world, you don't have so many temples where you have a constant flow of new people. And such a nice prashadam cooked by our Matajis. And we have to constantly remind ourselves of all these blessings that we have received every day, every single day. And there is one story of during the Second World War. There was one pious gentleman who there were the concentration camps, and all the Jewish people were imprisoned there and exploited, tortured so many ways. There was this rich gentleman who was having his own factory. I don't remember exactly what, but they were given opportunity to to get some Jewish people to come and work their factories. They were paying, and he used that opportunity to get them out of the concentration camps and save them actually. Because of that deal, he was putting them to work, and he was actually liberating them afterwards. So he spent all of his money and he saved many Jewish people in this way. He filled his factory with Jewish people. And he spent everything. And then the war was over, so many people were killed in concentration camps. And they interviewed him. How was he feeling after this heroic act that he committed? And he was actually very morose. He came to the interviewers, and he said he was very sad because he spent all of his riches, but he kept something. He had a golden watch, very nice, thick golden watch, just in case, for the future, to have maybe if he needs some money to sell it and get himself together if needed. And he said that after the war he saw how many died, and he realized that if he would have sold that watch to save a bunch of more people, maybe 50, 100, whatever, that would have been the best thing to do. And he didn't do it because he wasn't convinced that that is the right way, that was the right thing to do. But then later he realized he was repenting. So in this manner we have to realize in our situation, we put in the same condition, we have to realize how many precious jewels we have in our hands. Every day we shouldn't be negligent, and at the least we shouldn't be interfering with the other devotees who are engaged already and who are preaching, because that is also the case. For example, recently I was speaking with one friend whom I met just when I joined Krishna Consciousness movement. He became a devotee a few years afterwards, and we kept in contact. Long story short, he went through many hardships, and recently he became very burned out, and he decided to become more serious. And he ended up in South America, and actually what happened is that he went there to enjoy the tropical fruits of South America a little bit. But he ended up getting a dengue, and on top of that, it was some kind of small village, and there was a flood. So he was completely bedridden, and the flood came and was about to sweep away everything. But thankfully, there was one doctor who came and saved him. So he saw his life passing through his sight. And then he realized many things from that event. He said, "No, I just want to go for it." But he couldn't come back here. He wanted to come to New York. So he went back to Italy. And I tried to arrange for him to stay in a temple here and there. And he was very eager. He had this impetus to preach, to engage in Sankirtan. But he was kind of disappointed because he went into one place, 2 places, 3 places, but there was not a very good opportunity to engage in Sankirtan, Harina, Sankirtan distribution, preaching in his many facets. So another good point for us to understand that here we are very easily we have a very, very good opportunity. We can very easily engage in this, but in other places in the world, not so easy. In Europe, going out, singing in the streets, not so easy. Distributing books, not so easy. In many places. In Russia, it's even illegal. KGB can come and get you, put you in jail. So another reason for us to be serious and take up this opportunity seriously, because this is the legacy of the Sankirtan movement. Prabhupada explained ISKCON is the latest chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we have the possibility to engage in the pastimes of Mahaprabhu now, exactly in this moment. It's just a matter of our own choices. So we have to continue to cultivate our pure choice every day. It's not just a one-time surrender. No. Unfortunately. We have to continue surrendering every day. We have to continue reminding ourselves to be serious, to be gentle with the other devotees, to not commit mistakes, offenses, and to be eager to give Krishna to others, most important thing, in many ways. Anybody can use his talents. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj explained, a preacher needs only one qualification, and Brian knows that.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. There you go. So there are no excuses for us. Hare Krishna. This is what I wanted to share with you, dear devotees. I hope I said one of 5 things. If there's some feedback from you, please tell me. There are some comments, reflections, or questions. They are welcome.
Is there a mic I can use?
Krishna Prabhu. Nice class. Very wonderful points you were making. Very relevant for life of any devotee. I'm sure you've seen as well, helping bringing up new people. They get that initial taste of bliss. And then at some point they have to deal with the reality of, as this verse is saying, material enjoyment, fame, and opulence. They have to deal with the pushings of those things. Now, I've seen that 2 things happen. Some devotees are able to tolerate those things and continue on, and they're generally the ones that we see who become quite stable, and they go on serving for many, many years actually. But then we also see some people who become very restless, and they start thinking, I can't be satisfied in the temple, I can't be satisfied here, I can't be satisfied there, so they hop between temples, and they're constantly trying to just find satisfaction. What's the difference between these 2 people? Because they both are going through a similar experience. It seems like one person is going through more of an intense experience because they're becoming so restless, but it's my personal conviction that Krishna is giving everyone exactly what they need. And if anyone has been fortunate enough to come to the stage of chanting 60 rounds associating with devotees, they have all the tools in order to rise above those circumstances. So what's the difference between the 2? The devotee who becomes stabilized in the midst of those pushings of material desires, and the devotee who becomes restless and potentially leads to the association of devotees through the restlessness. What's the difference between the 2?
What's the difference between these 2? Very nice question. Very interesting question. I don't know if I can give the in other cases might be something else. But also there might be some common denominator which is present in all the cases, which can bug everybody. One thing that comes to my mind is how Keshav Maharaj was explaining in one of his lectures how they conducted a social experiment where there were two children who grew up in a family where parents were problematic. For example, the father was drunk. So by the time the kids became 16 years old, in their teenage years, late early 20s, whatever, they observed how, in this particular case, there was one child became like his father, he became a drunkard. He just took example from the father. But on the other side, there was the other boy who became the opposite. He became disgusted from that experience, and he became a sane man. So what was what's the difference? Why one became degraded and the other one actually learned from his father's mistake? And comes out that has a lot to do with how we process the things in our minds. We have to become thoughtful in our experience. We have to understand that all these things that are happening around us, that are happening in our heart, we have to process them properly through the eyes of the scriptures, through the guidance of the senior devotees. There are also many elements are there. It's a whole recipe. The recipe is given to us. Now we have to cook the meal. So we just have to follow the recipe and become thoughtful. That's an important thing. For example, here in New York, it's a very busy place, it's a very majestic place. The mantra is sometimes wondering, is the mantra Hare Krishna or the mantra is I'm busy? Everybody's like, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. And sometimes they don't even say it, they're just busy. Everybody's doing so many things. And this type of environment is actually sapping our way, our facility, our faculty to think deeply and to reflect on all these small things that happen in our daily life, which become big once they accumulate. A little bit of distraction here, a little bit of negligence there, and then after a while it becomes like a snowball. So little mistake here, little mistake there, less reading here, less reading there, and then it becomes a habit. And then at one point you just find yourself in a position where material nature just pushes you away. And you have to go through a different cycle in order to handle the situation that was created by your own mistakes. So, very important to stay in that situation where you have mental clarity. That's why self-food is so important, where you can actually think about the principles of the scriptures, where you have to contemplate on them, where you have to come in the end of the day and just say to yourself, hey, it's just my mind. It's not serious. Don't take yourself seriously. You're not this body, you're not, somebody said something wrong, somebody looked in a funny way, so what? Are you wrong? I'm a funny guy anyways. So, this is something that I can say, I don't know if definitely there are other items, for sure. Yeah.
If you allow me to add something to Prabhu's question, your points were very relevant, very thoughtful. I just remember a funny commentary by Prabhupada on this topic. He explains that he has different types of disciples. Some of them are descendants of monkeys, some are descendants of lions, and some are descendants of cows. And these are the three gates by which we enter into the true form of life. And Prabhupada says, we see that some of my disciples, they come, they are very enthusiastic in the beginning, but then later on, they cannot follow the principles. This proves that in previous lives they were monkeys. As confirmed by Darwin, by the way, he also says. It's very funny. So that's one thing. Another thing is offenses. If we commit offenses, then one of the results will be that we'll gradually lose taste, and Maya will push us away from the body association for a certain amount of time. So that's another difference between those who stay and those who have troubles and go around and are restless. Prabhupada says that restless means lust, too much lust. And these two things are what thank you.
Restlessness means what? What did you say?
Lust.
Lust, okay.
What were the cows? There's the cows.
Cows, lion, and monkey.
Yeah, cow means sattva guna, lions means rajas, and monkey means.
It reminded me of one lecture of His Holiness Kotra Maharaj, where he was explaining how, we see different types of devotees. Some devotees, they join right away, they just pick up the process like naturally, no problem. Just sadhana bhakti, no worries, waking up early, chanting. Some devotees, a little bit more difficult. Some devotees, you see, they're like struggling and just staying there, decades, you've been practicing already, why don't you take initiation? Somehow, you can't give his trust to the spiritual master. It's like, he's explaining how these are some accumulations of anarthas, some Vaishnava paradas maybe from the past, and you can't do it. You have a blockage in your heart, so you have to apply yourself, and you have to patience, that's one of the items. Utsaha Nishchaya, so we have to have patience. It may take lifetimes sometimes, what can you do?
Of course, even if you're a descendant of a monkey, it doesn't mean that you will fall down. That's not what Prabhupada says. It's not predetermined, because Krishna consciousness is absolutely can act in any circumstance. But he just makes this point that we should keep in mind.
Yeah, in different cases, different situations, devotees.
Thank you for the class, very thoughtful class, and very profound actually. And I was appreciating one thing you said in the beginning that the mind and the subconscious are particular situations like a swamp. So somehow some anartha, some desire will come out of even if you are experiencing some ecstasies and you're flying, festivals, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you find out in the real condition of your consciousness there's something from past lives, something from somewhere that is very troublesome. So I was wondering if you could explain how someone finally comes to disband those things, and especially on the topic of Guru. When one accepts Guru, and the moment of initiation is said that all these sinful reactions are purified. So then how does that still happen to someone who's already been initiated? That's one question.
How does what happen?
How is it that these desires and anarthas are still coming up?
Even though the Guru takes...
Even after initiation. Yeah, how could it be happening like that?
Because it's a storage. it's a luggage which is it's basically in your subconscious mind. You know, whenever the soul moves to another body, is what is bringing the soul to another body is the linga sharira, which is the subtle body. So that subtle body never gets destroyed, and it's there since the beginning. It only gets destroyed when the soul leaves the material world. So imagine all the gunk from thousands of years before, maybe you were a dinosaur, and you still have some dinosaur anarchas inside of you. And then when you start practicing bhakti, then you stir it up, and then it comes up. And we see them, you know, sometimes it's explained how, when you clean a room, first maybe, it's dirty, but then when you start cleaning, you move around all the stuff, and it looks even more dirty than before, even though you cleaned it already, because you created a greater mess. So that's a known phenomenon that happens, you start practicing and you start realizing, oh my God, why all these things are there, but you weren't noticing it before, now you're actually putting your glance into it. And even though the Guru takes some of our karma, it's not a magical process where you get initiated, you get an electrical charge, and that's it. You have to realize your mistakes. You have to realize what you got into, what kind of a bad deal you got into. I guess you have to see your conditions. You have to see what lust is, how harmful it is. Anartha. Another meaning for anartha means a catastrophe. So the body which we live in is also designated as anartha. This body is unwanted, actually. It's a bad burden, It's an existence which is illusory, temporary, which now we're using for self-realization, but from the ultimate perspective, this material existence it's a mistake. So apparently Krishna wants to understand our mistake, because maybe if we don't understand our mistakes, we'll come back again, we'll commit them again. This is what I think about that. 9 o'clock. Okay, if there are two.
I was just thinking that, the Guru gives us an opportunity to become purified through the process which he gives. It's not that we take initiation as a formality and purification takes place. But rather, we should call it Bhaktakari Atmasamarpana. That diksha is when one accepts the process of surrender and is willing to apply that process systematically. And that's what brings purification.
It's an opportunity. Every situation in this world, every social status, either a brahmachari or a grihastha or sannyasi, so that you take the sannyas and that's it. That's an opportunity for you to expand your emotional service. It's an opportunity for you to look closer and purify your anarthas. But it's not a magical process. The mercy is practical. It's practical mercy.
And they actually surrendered to the process. They got the mercy.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being very attentive and reciprocating.
Hare Krishna Prabhu ki
Jai.